from our studios in Frankfurt, Germany, this is the AFN Evening News.
Good evening. England's Prime Minister John Major is concerned that some of the former Soviet republics might sell all or part of their nuclear weapons, or that some of the nuclear scientific expertise that is in the former Soviet Union might be purchased by third world countries. Major said the 12-nation European community was in danger of becoming an obsolete rich man's club in the West and urged the European community to expand to include Sweden, Norway, Finland, Austria, and in the long run, farther east. Major takes over the revolving presidency of the European community in the second half of 1992. Drawdowns are affecting everyone, soldiers and civilians alike. Commanders who have to work with reduced budgets have a tough time deciding who stays or who goes. While the staff at Fort Sill, Oklahoma has already found a way to save some civilian positions, Specialist Florence Buehlman reports.
When 79 civilian positions were slated for RIF, Post Commander Major General Fred Marty and civilian personnel officials took a hard look at the budget. Rigid standards were set down on upgrading civilian positions, promotions, and creating new positions.
Immediately, we established very stringent controls over overtime. We implemented a hire freeze that's much more restrictive than that dictated by the Department of Army. We put in controls to discontinue all training except that which is absolutely essential.
Those selected for reduction hadn't completed their 3 years as career employees.
I was thrilled, needless to say, not only because I needed my job, but I enjoy what I'm doing. I like what I'm doing. I like providing support to Fort Sill. I believe what we do here is a good mission and a good cause, and I was glad to be able to stay.
Jay Parham sweated out the RIF down to the last few weeks before he found out his job was secure and learned a hard lesson in the process.
It is crucial for everybody to have a resume, whether you're active duty military or whether you're civil service, to have a resume prepared or 171 updated and ready to go, because that was one lesson I learned. I did not have that. I had one that was in okay shape, but it wasn't ready to go.
Post officials were ready to save jobs any way they could. If enough money wasn't conserved in the budget to retain all 79 employees, a furlough of the entire civilian workforce would have been initiated at the end of the year to make up the difference. Specialist Florence Buehlman, Fort Sill, Oklahoma.
When Charles de Gaulle withdrew his nation from NATO in 1967, the decision required the relocation of U.S. ammunition stocks held in France. One of the major ammunition storage areas to evolve from the move is Reserve Storage Area Carawent. 21st TACOM's Gail McCabe gives us a brief look at the facility.
It used to be a Celtic settlement and a Roman town. Now this quiet countryside in South Wales is the home for thousands of tons of ammunition.
The main subject of conversation here at Carawent is ammunition, just about any kind you can imagine. In fact, there are 1,800 acres committed to ammo storage.
The mission is to reinforce and supply ammunition to the troops in the continent, in Europe, East Europe.
Lieutenant Colonel Tom Ward is one of 4 U.S. military assigned to RSA Carawent.
What you've seen is ammunition of all kinds, ammunition that would be fired from tanks, from howitzers, from guided missile launchers, that sort of thing.
The covered storage areas are nestled into the natural lay of the land. The silence is broken only by the sounds of the mission.
That ammo is part of the retrograde of ammunition that's occurring all over U.S. Army Europe right now, and we're actually shipping this lot of ammunition back to the United States.
The community center provides most of the off-duty activities on this isolated post. PX and commissary shopping require commuting.
You're a long way from the flagpole here. There are some advantages and disadvantages to that, obviously, but it also means that we make very good friends and become close neighbors with the local people here, and that's a real treat.
In Carawent, Wales, Gail McCabe, 21st TACOM, AFN News.
They are the caretakers of soldiers, the medics. They serve right alongside other soldiers during combat and anywhere else troops are deployed, such as Saudi Arabia with the 94th Air Defense Artillery Brigade. USAR's Charlie Gill has more.
While there is no combat in Saudi Arabia these days, there is intense training, and injuries do occur. And there is the daily routine of checking on soldiers who feel ill. The medics of 94th Air Defense Artillery Brigade see it all. They have to. The medics say thus far, they've been pretty lucky.
And thank goodness that nobody's gotten hurt, really seriously so far. So everybody's been taken pretty good care of.
So while some medics treat soldiers back in garrison, others keep sand out of a field station, the medics are always on call.
You're out here, we're coming out and getting dusty, and it's a lot more difficult. We don't have the things here in the tent that we would like to work with as much as we do back in the rear, but we make do with what we have.
When given the opportunity, some medics take to infantry training. Specialist Harold Grubbs says it's a real change of pace.
Every once in a while, the medics get a chance to come out with 11 Bravos and have some good training, and we're kind of like their pets. They take care of us and watch out for us to cover our backs a lot because they know that we're not used to doing this kind of stuff.
The medics of the 94th ADA will stay on the job as long as there are soldiers to take care of. In Saudi Arabia with the USARA Public Affairs Office, Charlie Gill for AFN News.
A New Year's Day assault left American service members hospitalized. 7 soldiers from the 2nd Armored Division were assaulted and injured outside a club in Bremerhaven. 2 of the soldiers were taken to a German hospital and the others were taken to the Army hospital there. No information is available on their condition at this time. The assailants have not been identified, but the incident is being investigated by German and American authorities. Also early yesterday, police used water cannons and tear gas to quell a riot by about 100 young people in Berlin. Police said rioters erected street barricades and set them on fire shortly after midnight in the rundown district of Kreuzberg, home to militant anarchists and immigrants. 14 police officers were injured as riot police moving in to restore order were pelted with stones and fireworks. There were about 20 people arrested. Well, it's time for weather. Tech Sergeant Rob Rios is here with the forecast.
Well, Rob, I don't know about you, but I certainly wouldn't mind if sunshine broke out every now and then here in Frankfurt. Did you ever notice it just feels warmer when the sun's out? Anyhow, we may have to wait a little longer. You can see how conditions out there look this afternoon from the satellite. Most of your cloud cover being steered kind of over Central Europe, being steered by the wind flow in the upper levels of the atmosphere, kind of a very broad area of high pressure situated over southwest Europe today, clearing things down in the south. Even parts of southern Germany today enjoying just a little bit in the way of sunshine. Let's take the satellite off, move on to today's surface map. There's that area of high pressure I mentioned. Sunshine everywhere in the south today. Certainly a different story, though, around our neck of the woods. Cloudy skies, patchy drizzle scattered over parts of Central Europe back towards the UK. Wind speeds were also up in the north, and for now, all your heaviest rainfall was confined to far north and northwest Europe. Temperature-wise, put the numbers on the board. These are how readings looked at 3 p.m. around our part of the world. Kind of a pretty good range in temperatures out there today, 30s and 40s here in Central Europe, lower 50s over the UK, although, again, wind speeds were up, so that did add just a little bit of a wind chill to these numbers. Now, outside in Germany, as I said earlier, if you were in southern Germany today, you were one of the few lucky ones that part of the country and getting just a little bit of sunshine from Stuttgart, Munich, even as far north as Heidelberg. North of that, though, plenty of cloud cover, drizzle on and off today, and in fact, even at 3 p.m., Garlstadt, they're one of the warmest places in the country with light drizzle. Take these numbers off, you can see what tomorrow's forecast map reveals. Most of us will see very little change overall. That area of high pressure is forecast to weaken slightly, drift a little further south, so I do expect southern Germany will see an increase in clouds, certainly more clouds than were out there today. Otherwise, gusty winds will continue in the central, especially northern Europe, and as that front moves a little further into the picture, that will generate an increasing chance of rain over the UK, and temperature-wise, readings warming back into the upper 30s and 40s. So let's recap this, take one more look at the forecast. Cloudy skies will continue over central and especially northern Europe tomorrow with a pretty good chance of rain across the UK. Lows tonight in the 30s and low 40s with highs in the upper 30s and 40s. That's my forecast. I'll see you tomorrow night.
The dollar was up slightly in trading today against the German mark, but not enough to affect our exchange rate. So tomorrow at community banking facilities, credit unions, and finance offices, your dollar still buys 1 mark 48. Let's take a look at some of the